Hey there, everybody. Nice to see you. Um, if you're following along, there was a little bit of a gap between episodes 5 and 6, and about to get into some of that. The GitHub release for the start of the day is the 0.5.1, and historically it would have been 0.5. I would have started exactly where I left off for at the end of 0.5, but the following I found to be true. We spent about 5 hours here watching me p invoke into SDL2 from F sharp. And I figure at this point, you really get the sense of, hey, p invoking is, um, I mean, it's great that we can use older things in newer projects and that there's a way for backwards compatibility. But by the same token, it's really not terribly interesting to watch. And so V0.5.1, beginning of episode 6, is the release in GitHub, and we'll go back to the Trello board and we'll take a look at where we were before. We wanted to load bitmaps, free surfaces, render filled rectangles. I have gotten through all of those, and also I don't have any particular items here on the pixel formats and conversion routines. But I'm going to give you a brief tour of what happened in between um, episode 5 and now. And also apparently I have a couple of changes that I didn't check in, so that's not in the release, but that's okay. I'm probably going to go over all that stuff. So here in one of the first things I did was I said, hey, I want to use units of measure. And I know not everybody likes units of measure, and also it's like, what's going on? I have given units of measure for pixels, which are px, bits, which are bit, and bytes, which has to be bytes because byte is a type. I've also started to make use of internal modifiers, and the reason for that is it is difficult. I'll show you the next one. So this is a couple utilities because everywhere that we need a string into or out of SDL, we have to um, it's UTF-8 encoded. It's not ASCII. It's not anything that isn't UTF-8. So our marshallers don't know what to do. So we just say, all right, well we'll deal with them as pointers. We'll be on that in a second. Um, this was actually the one comment, and I will delete it now. But why they're now internal? Things like SDL rect, especially SDL rect, are used multiple places, but one of the things I really wanted to do with SDL here is to have a different module. Here's one for initialization, here's the one for versioning, but there are plenty of places where SDL rect is needed. And so I can't have it just visible to this module, so I can't have it type private and not be able to see it outside the module. I'm not entirely sure if I can type private it in each place that I need it, but that smacks of wrongness. I want to declare it exactly one place, and I want to use it wherever that is. And the answer is that all this stuff here in the SDL folder, those are going to become part of its own assembly, which is effectively the F# SDL binding. And so internal is the appropriate thing. I can now use it anywhere in the module. And even though this is kind of our toy module where we're building it, where we can build it and test it without having it be in its own module, although we'll probably move it at some point. Internal is the way all of the structs that we make, will be internal. And most of the time, whenever I can, I will use and actually this is now wrong because this was done before I made the decision. There are a couple different ways to get things into and out of a CAPI. The actual SDL has intersection takes a SDL rect pointer and an SDL, two SDL rect pointers. These in F# are uh, these are bival or biref. What do they call it? It's a here I can do it here where it says it is a biref SDL rect, and that's fine. So it's a reference to the struct, and that does kind of work out to be a pointer. But in reality, I want it to actually be a pointer. There's a consequence of this, of course, which is that it is now unverifiable in IL code. But SDL works on pointers, and so do we. Because most of the time, especially with SDL rect, null means everything. Null means the whole area. And so, and that is done so many places that I couldn't not pass everything as pointers. We're going to fix that up right here and make them all pointers. Now you see, the red squiggly line is the hey dude, you're asking for a native pointer, and it's passing, and currently it has a biref. 2 ampersands is a native pointer, 1 ampersand is a biref. And then you get the squiggly blue is like the use of native pointers may result in unverifiable .NET IL code. That's true, and there's nothing we can do about it. The thing that I was doing about it, I was making them birefs, but then you had to actually have a value, and I didn't always have a value. So it goes. So SDL geometry, which actually I think comes from sdlrect.h, if I remember correctly. I think so. SDLrect.h became SDL geometry. It does have SDL point, but there aren't a whole lot of places where SDL point is actually used. There are these, which I have not DLL imported yet. That's mostly because I don't know yet if I want to bring them in, or it's one of those I can spend. This is a big time sink because here's a SDL here's SDL pointers and account, and I know how to do it. I just was like, I don't use this one. I will do these recs intersect. What is the intersection? What is the union? But I won't enclose points, and I generally won't intersect rect and line. It is important for a complete a complete binding, to be sure, and that's why they're here, so that at some point in the future I can put them in. But what I do, so the actual structs are internal, and I make a record type for point and rectangle, which also use my measurements. And then I have my internal conversion routines so that they can go. See, this one's private, and they don't need to be private. These can be used anywhere. I don't think there's a lot of places where I actually have to use points, so that's why it's private, or that's why private was okay here. And in each case, something like has intersection, intersect, rect, and union rect, I wrap it with a function. And there are also a lot of places in SDL where everything's a pound define. And I also tend to take the pound defines and make them into actual functions. And a lot of places, so if I have a rectangle structure and I want to be able to make the equivalent of a null SDL rect pointer, I have to do something like rectangle option, where none means a null pointer. And that's kind of how this winds up going. And these will as well. Right now, it will only take rectangles and rectangles, not nulls. But so, I'll have to change those eventually. Let's do a rectangle to. So actually, I'll change my conversion routines to an SDL. In any case, That's one of those things that's not terribly interesting to watch me do it. It's also probably not that terribly interesting to watch me ramble on for 10 minutes about pointers. But a lot of SDL here has to do with this. I also went in and a lot of things that were mostly pound defined, or the enums in C became enums here for the most part, and things like these functions like init, quit. I got init subsystem, a quit subsystem, and was init, but they're rather than having SDL underscore, they're camel cased and more appropriately named for 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 F sharp, at least in my opinion. Version I haven't really touched. SDL error also didn't touch much. SDL event has had don't know how much work done, but maybe a little bit. Oh, I brought all the event types in, although I don't have all the event structures. And I don't think there's that much work done. There are various conversion events, and so they'll do that, and then also and then couple added quit, but quit doesn't have anything other than yeah, hi, I'm the type of quit, and here's the timestamp of when it happened. I have not. I changed the enum flags for SDL window. I added SDL pixel. Well, it was there before, but all of the enums became more appropriate. The weird bitmap order one, where there's a 4321 and 1234, I have to put an underscore in front of it. Most of the rest of these, and also packed layout. These cannot be an enum because um, yeah, this was a pound define. Define pixel format was a pound define. That's why it's got the word define in it, and does these things. And hey, I learned yet another about the bitwise operator. I think I might have done that last time. No, maybe. Anyway, but so since that's a function, these have to be constants, and so they are. I have SDL color, SDL palette, SDL pixel format. These are used internally. Anything that's a pointer is generally an int pointer here rather than strongly typed, and I have to deal with getting them in um, by well. I will certainly overcome it. I will certainly see it and point it out when I do. These are all the functions called in SDL pixel. Number of them. Some of these are the hey, I've got masks. I want to know what format I am, or I've got the format and I want to know what my masks are. A couple of these allocation and the memory management ones. So it's like, hey, make me a format, because if I wanted to actually see what does the format look like for AirGB 8888, I would call this function with the format enum, but then it allocates the memory, and I then later have to free it. It's the way SDL does it, and there's nothing for it. Some palette functions, if in case I wanted to do some 8-bit surfaces, and actually I kind of do. And also you can see somebody commented like, hey, you're not using visual F sharp power tools. To which I said, why yes I am. See this folder? I am. And so poking around a little bit, I've modified my settings somewhat, and seeing this is I want to gray out things I'm not using. So SDL map RGB, which takes a red, green, and blue value and a format and converts it into the actual binary representation of the color, I have not wrapped that one. I did RGBA. And similar for get RGB, I did not implement that, but I implemented get RGBA. And I've seen this function. Every time I look at STL, I eventually go, hey, look, here's a gamma ramp function. I'm going to calculate the. I don't even know. I don't even know what it does. I have really no use for this function. I've never had a use for this function. I will likely put it in there and do a little bit of research to wrap it up before the binding is complete. But it's one of those things like, yep, you're the gamma ramp function. Go get them. I considered for a brief moment finding some way of putting units on color. I came up with a couple of things like intensity or lum or whatever, but I then just eventually came to I didn't like it because um, red, green, blue, and alpha, you're going to think of them one of two ways if you're a game developer, and you're going to actually be used to switching between them. You're either going to think of them as between 0.0 and 1, as you typically do in like OpenGL, or you're going to think of them as 0 to 255 as you do if you're just plotting dots in anything dealing with something like SDL. So it's 0 to 255 or 0.0 to 1.0, and they don't have units. It is unit free. It doesn't make sense. So I made type aliases for palette and pixel format. But pixel format info is all of the stuff inside of pixel format. Well, some of it, not all of them. So I think the masks need to go in there. Matter of fact, I should put them in. Actually, I'll put them in right now. Oh, and then there's another guy who said, "Hey, you're refactoring wrong. You suck at refactoring." He didn't say I suck. And said, "Hey, there's this thing, alt selecting. Why don't you just alt select like that?" He recommended doing with the mouse. I first used an IDE in like 1990 or 91, and it was Turbo Pascal. And I don't know if they did or did not have alt selecting at the time, but I sure didn't know about it. And that's when I was learning to use IDEs, and I just I'm the guy who I don't necessarily go, hey, what are all the features of an IDE and all the other stuff. I learned a lot of keyboard shortcuts, but I don't necessarily learn. I did not learn about alt selecting until until just recently, and that's sad because my goodness, it's such a useful way to do things. But now I know. Is there something where I'm grabbing those out yet, or I'm not? I'm not done wrapping these things by any means. That's for sure. Am I using it again? Nope, I'm still not. So when I do use it, so all these things, and these have units, so like my bits per pixel is a bit per pixel, and my bytes per pixel are bytes per pixel. It's what I like to do. I don't know that format's gonna be necessary there. But anyway, so some of these get wrapped, and then some of these are again, here's pointers, and it's saying, hey, unverifiable. Yes, I know. And of course, you're returning a big ugly tuple, but the thing is, it doesn't make sense to not have I suppose I might want um a record for this, but it'd be like just for this function, and that would be it. Well, just for this function, and it would take in one of these and spit out a format. So I don't know, but at the same time, I could change it in a little while, and that'd be all right. So Most of this got at least tentatively um, implemented. So the pixel stuff, other than gamma ramp and the RGB versions rather than the RGBA versions, are there and ready to go. RW ops, I only did one because I kind of I need one. I just haven't done it yet. SDL Surface though, SDL Surface has a structure, but it's not one that you're going to find useful very often. So a surface is an endpointer for our purposes. And right now I can create and freeze surfaces, and that's all I can do. But all the other functions are here. And oh, there's one. I can fill a rectangle. That's right, I did do one. But these are ready to start being used. So these are here, and I've changed all the surface to things, and um, all the pointers are in pointers. And that actually the reason the one in RW ops is here is because it's needed to actually call load bitmap. All right, SDL texture. I've got the other functions in. I don't have anything other than you can create it, you can create one from a surface, and you can destroy them. And SDL renderer, this one's long. There are a lot of functions in there, most of which I have not wrapped yet. And some of them I will need, and some of them I will not need. In any case, and that brings me to the end. Let me see if I still compile here, because I've changed a couple of things. And there's one more that I need. Where are you? Update. Oh, not there. Did I bring that over into texture? Update texture. Yes. So I need to wrap this guy, and so here's how this works. And let's head on over to the SDL2 wiki, because the way that I've decided I'll be doing my updates, the SDL2 wiki. Where are you? Up here's the migration guide. It's been a few days. I've mostly just been jamming through functions and implementing them. Here's my migration guide. Nice and slow. Thanks for being slow. Everybody wants to see SDL today, right? That's what we did. Where's the one with update texture? Update texture. So I got pixels, and as I need SDL texture. Null being a rectangle, and the pixels, well, you can get those from the surface. So where is it at? Update texture. So you have a surface, you have a texture. I want to take my screen. I want to take my surface, which here is called screen. So it's got pixels and pitch. I'll show you this in a second. I need a texture and I need a rectangle. But so we're going to do it. We're going to update texture. And then we'll actually be mostly, at least somewhat good to go, because I'll actually be able to make colored blocks on the screen. It'll be fantastic. You'll love it. So update. The texture has to be the last parameter. And I want, and we're going to make sure that that's a texture. And we want to update a rectangle from a surface. DST rect. That's going to be a rectangle. STL geometry dot rectangle. We got the source, so STL surface, and a texture. And actually, my has to be an option. And this is where things are going to be get strange. All right. So we're going to say let I do need a map of something. So okay, let SDL rect equal if DST rect that is none, then actually I can do a DST rect option dot is it map? Yeah, map. And so, yes, we're going to where's the geometry function? It is goes from rectangle to SDL rect. And that's really all I should need. Map that. So now SDL rect will be a SDL rect option, or it should be anyway. Let rect ptr equal if SDL rect is none, then int pointer 0, else and you know, I just never remember how to get from that's just address. It's SDL rect. Another rect pointer. Oh, no, because this is 0. Don't mind me here, and actually, if you have the answer to this, for some reason I get red squigglies where I'm going to have to do some native pointer stuff here. They're at native pointers, not yet. Open Microsoft.fsharp.native interop. So native pointer dot of native int. So I have to take an int pointer, convert it to native int, and then take it to native pointer of native int. Actually, this is fine. Actually, I'm fine here because I got nothing but int pointers. But in an SDL rect, that's dot value. This is not a, and it might even it gets very confusing. Native pointer to native int. So that's cool. So rect pointer is going to be a native int to native int. int ptr. Does that work? So it should be an int ptr. Or it is a native int, or whatever. And I never know. Sometimes I will do this and it will not complain at all. This is just a, hey dude, here's a let, but I need to really, this can go away if I just say, and you return nothing. Let's steal geometry. Okay, this is tough. So that's a native int, but it's an in pointer. See, now I need native tr dot of native int. Or no, to native int. And actually that takes the, you have to do it this way. Is that right? Or is that not right? We need a no warn. Very, so let mutable. Oh, good times. What don't you like? Okay, so let temp equals that. Dot value. STL rect. Let me. So wait. The value must be mutable in order to mutate the counter to take the address of a value type. It must be mutable. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Pretty much all the time that I'm sitting here making this binding, there's stuff like this that I just imagine by the end I'll be an expert, but then I won't need to do it anymore, and I won't need to do it for months or years, and then the next time I come to it, I will have exactly the same flail pattern. And it's like, I don't get it. I don't understand. But whatever. But now I've got a rect pointer, but see, where'd temp go? See, is temp a, when does temp disappear exactly? And this is part of the fun. Like, I'm not really sure. So here's temp and else, and then I'm going to convert it to, I'm going to have the pointer to it, and I'm going to use the pointer, and I don't know what happens. And I'm back in a space where I certainly, and then my pixels. All right, so I've got a surface. And this, so a still surface is really just an in pointer. So I go source, so I need let p surface, let's call p surf, pointer to a surface, which is, you take the source and you native int it, and then you native pointer from of native int, and it's going to be in, it's in SDL surface, that SDL surface. Okay. So now psurf is a native pointer to an SDL surface. See, this is the goofy thing where this, if I get rid of this, it goes up. It says we're fine. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Depends on the day. So we're still of There might be some weird explicit conversion between int pointer and native int, but not from native int to int pointer, because there are other places where, like this one right here. Get rid of this and build. Or is this one not where that happens? Make me a liar, why don't you? Fine. Oh, for cry. Anyway, I will show you. I'm not crazy. Weird things happen when you're interhopping with native code. So I got a pointer to a surface, and well, we're gonna make an assumption here that it isn't 0, that isn't null. I'm gonna say let surface equal psurf. Actually, at this point, I can go ahead. Yeah, what could possibly go wrong? Native pointer read. So now surf is an STL surface. So I now have in it, because this is what I'm calling. I need a pointer to pixel and an int with pitch. So I have a texture, I have a rectangle that I have the pointer to, the pointer to pixels, and I have an integer with pitch on it. So in theory, so it's STL texture native, STL update rect, update texture. So I've got my texture, I've got my rect pointer, got surf dot pixels, surf dot pitch. And what do you return, Mr. Update Texture? Let's take a look at you. See there's update texture. So there should be a. Well, we'll open her up. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, it's very slow today. Chances are it's a 0 means okay. Update the texture. Update. Update texture. Well, at least it's nice and slow. All right. And it returns a 0 on a success. All right. So we'll have it be a bool. 0 equals. You return a bool. And then in theory, update will take a rectangle and a surface and a texture and update it. And I can even put none here, and it will just make it a null rectangle. Could make a different function that just takes a surface. It may still decide to do that. But for now, so I copy the texture. So I clear the renderer. I copy the texture. I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna texture STL texture update none and surface. And that should work, right? That's right. It has type bool, of course, and we're going to ignore. Ugbuyer. That's when you. Yeah, Ugbuyer is when you're shifted, Bile. And ignore. But in order for us to actually say that we've done something on the screen, we need surface, steel surface, fill rect, rectangle x equals 0 px, y equals 0. I do have it taking that, right? Because I convert it over or something. Fill rect, it's a rectangle, and it converts it, and then it fills it. This one also needs to have a convert me to null. Color uint 32, so I don't have my color conversion routines. Px width equals 10 px, height equals 10 px. What's your problem here? And x will go ff 0. So it's going to be red. So it's going to need to be a U. And now it's telling me it has a type bool. And we'll ugbire this. So if I see that's probably red, although if it's in a different format, that'd be blue. So here's got a surface. I'm going to fill that rectangle. I'm going to update the texture with the surface. I'm going to copy the texture onto the renderer, and I'm going to present the renderer. And at this point, if this works, who knows? We will have. Hey, look at you. All right. And just so it's not a, just so that's not a fluke. Put 10, 10, and make it blue. Go. Red and blue. Look at that. Yay for that. Cool. And that's rendering at this point. We could really decide to, we could actually really do something. It not as full featured as it will be once we have more stuff to show, but we can render to the screen. We can render to the screen and and accept events. Well, we can currently quit the game. We can't really do anything. So right now I have it. Before I had it, so when you when you clicked the screen, now I no longer do. You can click. That's an SDL quit event. Then I also put typically when developing a little game. One of the first things implemented is hit escape and window closes. So hit escape and window closes is in effect. And so let's take a look back at Trello and see what we're doing here. So we don't have loading bitmaps. We have render filled rectangles, free surfaces. We can free a surface. We can work on loading a bitmap, and then we'd be done for the day. Pixel format and conversion routines. We're going to call it done enough. We don't have the RGB versions, but I don't need them. We'll call that done. Rectangle functions, we're also going to call that done. And get that over there. So one more thing with rendering, with textures and rendering basics. So if I can load a bitmap. So I'm going to need a bitmap. So step one, let's get a bitmap. And by bitmap here, we actually mean a .bmp file. All right, for my next trick, we're going to add a folder. Call the folder content. We're going to see how well things go. So add. I'll go to File Explorer. I will bring this in. All right, so here we are on the project 2. There's content. I'm going to make a new bitmap. Make a new one. Make it 16 by 16. All right. Get up in here. We're going to say, here's you, here's you. You're a smiley face, really bad smiley face. We're gonna save you, but we're gonna save you the workspace. To content, smile, and right now in SDL itself, it can deal with BMP files. It cannot deal with anything not BMP. There's another SDL image that helps with that, and I certainly will want to get to that. But for now, all right, smile.bmp. Let's add you. Existing item. BMP. There you are. Make you into content, and copy of newer is fine. And so we're going to have to cover this guy. See, these are both strings, and I don't know if they're both ASCII or not. Because really, SDL to RW from file is the old ANSI C F open. And if you're a person who's never C F open, C library F open, it is file name. F open is a file name and a mode. And there's all these things that you can put into the mode R and so on. And well, as it turns out, that's exactly these are really char pointers when you look at the header file. So SDL read write from file is fopen, and it's just to make it in a platform independent way. So I'm not entirely sure if these will work as regular strings or not. It's an RW, so it gives me an int pointer anyway, and then how do I low level file input and output? Typically, I just say using stream reader and let it do the work for me. However, today is a different day. So alright, I can do a read write from other things too. So right, from file. Is there anything where I have to free them or do anything else? No, everything else is functions for reading and writing particular things. Don't know. Huh. Oh, it's a file. Okay. Strange stuff when you're making a cross-platform thing that's as low level as this. Oh, and there's a structure definition. That's ugh. All right. No, I'm good. Thanks, though. Okay. Well, let's take. No need to just listen to me mumble about it. Let's take a look here on the SDL documentation, and I can show you myself exactly what I'm talking about. So, file I/O abstraction. And the one, do I have to actually free it later or no? I'm not sure. So I'm looking at this one, RW from file. const char. These are okay. The file is UTF-8. File is UTF-8. The mode is an ASCII string. And so, well, this will be fun. Charset equals charset dot ANSI. So mode can be passed as a string and it'll figure it out. However, the endpointer file will need, maybe this one's module internal to internal. That way I don't have to, then I don't need to expose it anywhere. So the thing that I want to do here is I want to do a load bitmap. But it's a load bitmap RW. And let me go back to the SDL documentation very quickly. And this will be the last thing for today. We're going to have this smiley face on that screen. And that's how that's going to go. There's table function, service creation. Load BMP. See, but of course, it looks like, hey, here's a load BMP, and it's just a file, but really, I'm going to go and get it from the header file, because we are an SDL surface, aren't we? SDL surface. And I will show you exactly what it is we're doing here. SDL surface. So what I want to do is I want load BMP. Essentially, I want let load BMP. And I want a file name, which is a string. I want it to spit me out a surface. Equal. So the pound define it's an SDL load bitmap, which is really an SDL load bitmap RW, SDL RW from file with the file name, and then RNB, haha RNB, and a 1, which you look over here and you look at load BMP RW, and free source is the, hey, I'm going to pass you an RW ops, you can delete it when you're done. And that's really what we want to do. So load BMP is the equivalent of this guy. So the first thing we need is an SDL RW from file. So we need that. But our file name has to be, okay, where was that function there? So with UTF-8 string, and there's a function that I have to pass. All right, let's do utility. Utility with UTF-8 string. Fun e whatever, and file name. So e is an in pointer, and we're going to do something with it. And what is going to happen? I make this thing. So function in pointer, and it gives me a t. So the result is I'm going to pass that to the func, and whatever I return is what gets returned by that. So, okay, that's kind of how I standardly do this. So there's PTR. So SDL RW ops that PTR RB. right? So this is probably the worst idea ever. Channel 1 SDL surface. Oops, SDL surface native dot SDL load bitmap RW, and well, I'm a trusting soul. Obviously, this will work, right? Who knows? And what happens if the file doesn't have what? All sorts of fun and interesting explosions can take place here. But this is the literal equivalent of doing that. So it takes the pointer, changes it to interprets it as a UTF-8 string, takes that pointer, puts it into RW from file, takes that RW ops and says, yep, delete me when I'm done, sends it to load bitmap RW. So in the theory, it should load a bitmap. Let's find out, shall we? And we got this surface. Let's do let bitmap SDL surface. Up, I haven't built, so it doesn't know about it yet. Of course not. That's fine. Load bitmap. What kind of thing do we got? Let's have a string. We're gonna go with content smile.bmp. We do have to free these things. Free or bitmap surface free. And I do have to. I gotta put the bitmap on here. Believe you me, one of the next things to fix is the event pump, because this needs help. This is getting stupid. This is really a rendering context, or a I don't know which one. Yeah, rendering context. And we need rendering context and state, because this becomes, yeah, that's getting ahead of ourselves. Well, let's see if we compile, and then let's see what happens when we run. We're not even going to try to load it yet. Okay, so bitmap, it's a nothing, and ooh, what do we got? Look at you. All right. Yep. And we do that. We get that. All right. So now, in theory, something happened with bitmap, right? Oh, you know what I don't have? I don't have blitz surface, which is I was we've got all of this stuff. So yak. Well, hey, I wonder. To prove that we've loaded the bitmap, because I don't care, because there's a bunch of stuff I got to do to get blit going. All I need to do is copy from the surface to the texture, and I can do that with the bitmap surface, I think, and see what happens. So 9 go. Well, that's a very strange thing to happen. Huh. It's not right, but it is sort of the data. Why would Why would this happen? Huh. Or is it because it's not the same size? Let's right quick. Why would I want paint? Why in the world would anybody ever want to open things with paint? Open with paint.net. Where are you? Why would you ever not want to open it with paint.net? Image, we're going to resize it to 160 by 120. We're not going to maintain an aspect ratio. We're going to make it all goofy. 20. Go. So now we have that. We're going to save that. It's ugly, but who cares? Alright. Now, I'm going to say load that guy again. Okay, now it's very strange. So there's something we're not doing right. But we are loading the bitmap. We are getting the bitmap onto the texture. And this episode's long enough, and we've actually gotten somewhere. I will see if I can, between now and the next episode, determine what exactly my problem is here. Yeah, who knows? We'll get it. Don't you worry. We always get it. Thanks for following along this journey with me. Be sure to be on the lookout for the next set of videos, and as always, keep the joy of functional game dev in your heart, whatever that means.